Technically, I live in here, but most of the day, I spend a lot of time in here. And due to popular demand, I'm going to be giving a tour of 400 square feet. Now, that may sound pretty boring unless you stuff a lot of stuff inside of 400 square feet. I'm trying to stay steady on these YouTube videos, try and get one out every week. Over on Instagram, I like 5x'd my following in the past 100-something days. And I've been getting a lot of questions. Questions about tools, tool organization, which tools I like, which tools I made, etc., etc. How did I start? How do I make it all work in here? What am I really up to? So I think I'm going to go through some of that stuff in this episode, and I'm going to give you a pretty unfiltered look at what I got going on over here, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So as you can see, there's some decent tool organization around here, but as you get closer, you can see that things are kind of a mess. And I thought, nah, I'm just gonna let it rip and show you the place exactly as it is. And I think we're just gonna go around the room and talk about some stuff. For the past several episodes, I've been working on this Royal Enfield chopper, custom frame up build, kind of waiting on parts right now, and it has created some space, so I need some content to post, and people have been asking for this, so here we are. There's especially been a lot of questions about the frame jig, and I'm going to get into that because that's kind of like a deeper topic. I'm going to throw that towards the end. Let's just start walking around the room. Over here I have basically a pile of stuff, or at least that's what it looks like, but I have it pretty well fit in here. Everything's pretty well accessible. Starting with the corner over here, I have a 220 volt, 80 gallon air presser, which is kind of overkill for a garage this size, but I like to have constant pressure and a decent CFM, especially for air tools. I actually only have 3 air tools, ironically. A die grinder with a carbide bit, an angle grinder with a small sanding disc, and a DA. And I only have 1 air line, and it all comes here to the center of the garage with an easy reach. And this will actually go all the way out to the driveway. So I kind of only need 1. This thing was not cheap. I definitely could have gotten a cheaper one. It works okay. I've seen better ones in action, but this has a pretty iconic logo on it, and I'm totally guilty of that Amazon purchase. Likewise, I only have 1 extension cord. Same deal, it's got 3 prongs. There are other outlets around here, but most of them are getting used up. This is my go-to. One last little thing here is I put this tripod on here. I haven't really used it yet. I haven't really figured out how to use it, but I can like move it around and place it near things. But most of the time, I kind of forget it's up there. Kind of a theme as we go through all of this stuff. I have this rule called the forever tool. If you have to buy a tool, if you need a tool, and you plan on using it forever, get the best tool that you can get. It may cost a lot of money, it may hurt, but as they say, buy once, cry once. And in the case of the air compressor, go big, and I'm keeping it at home. So let's move on. On to the welders. I got stuff in the way. For the longest time, I was a 1 welder guy, always TIG. Everything that I build basically always calls for TIG. And if I build something that would call for MIG, I would just TIG it. It takes longer, whatever. And in my come up, I would go with some cheaper welders, but I've also used other people's really nice welders, super expensive welders, you know, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 welders. And they are nice. If you can afford that and you want to go that route from like a Miller, I would highly recommend it. But also, this thing, the Power TIG 210 EXT, it's a pretty nice welder. I think it was like $1,800. I went for the Nova pedal. They don't make this, it's from a company called Nova. It's got great control. You got all the settings, it's AC/DC, it does pulse. which I've recently started messing around with again, and I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty nice. I'm gonna do some more of that. This does all of it. I completely recommend it. You know, if you're welding heavy duty cycles all day, every day, maybe you want something a little bit bigger, more powerful, but for my case, it works really well. And I was always a one TIG guy, or one welder guy, as I said, and I recently got a MIG welder. There's a backstory on that, but I ended up going for a Vulcan from Harbor Freight. Kind of break my rule on that, but it does pretty well for the occasional MIG weld. It's 220, so I get a good amount of heat from it. And well, I also got this welding cart because now I had two welders. I'm able to fit these things side by side. There are drawers and cabinets in the side. It's pretty sturdy. When I gotta get to it, I just pull it out. I can move this around the shop if I want. All of the welding stuff is in there. I got TIG and, well, also my MIG pliers in here. 20 bucks. I like these little things. Over here, cabinets. These are basically tools. Got angle grinder, tube polisher. Got all my gloves right in here, easy access. And, well, I also have this stuff over here. I recently got a small oxyacetylene setup to bend exhaust tubing, like my last video. Didn't go so well, but I'm learning. And I got the small one, and somebody told me the rosebud really eats up a lot of acetylene. I'm almost out. I should have gone for the bigger bottles. Bottles can be expensive, hard to come by, especially ones in date. I went for the smaller ones. I'm already regretting it. I broke my rule. Don't break the rule if you can. So this I found on Facebook Marketplace, this grinder. It was a grinder, now it's a buffing wheel, but it has some very special characteristics. It's old, which is gold. It's pretty solid. It runs on 110, but it has 2 horsepower, and it rotates at 1725 RPMs, which is a relatively low RPM speed. And that's good for buffing because you don't want to overspin and add too much power into the part when you're buffing, but you also want it to maintain that speed, not get bogged down while you're buffing. So it's got high horsepower and low RPM. It's a really nice find, especially for 125 bucks. I've been very happy with it. And then I just made this stand from scrap at my local metal supply store, plus a semi-truck wheel that I got for 20 bucks on Facebook Marketplace. I always figured that this would be kind of a dead area of the garage, so I just piled as much of the big stuff as I could in this corner. I still have easy access to the welders, easy access to tools here. Buffing wheel can be dragged out. Air compressor I don't have to touch, so it all stays over here. And then I kind of section it off with this welding table. I don't know why this is here. I do know why this is here. I was showing my friend Colt, who was here this weekend. I'm gonna put that back inside. Welding table that I built for a previous space. It's a little bit bigger than I would have built for this space. I had more room in that space. It's basically just C-channel and square tubing. And so I kind of just stuck it out as a partition, but it also allows me to have this vise in a nice convenient to work area. Facebook Marketplace find, nice big vise that's stamped January 2nd, 1908. My latest acquisition, this is a jet benchtop mini lathe. It's the BDB 919. I think they came out with a 920 after that. It's a 9-inch swing over the ways and 20 inches, what do they call that? Center to center. It is the first lathe I've ever owned. It's not the first lathe I've ever used, but I probably have like a total of 2 or 3 hours experience. I got this in a trade. I traded something that was given to me that I didn't need or want. So I basically came out of pocket for nothing on this thing. And I figure these days, or at least for right now, I only need to shorten axles, make axle spacers, bungs for frames. I might shave and polish some fork lowers, and I can do all of that on this lathe. So I figured it's good to get my feet wet on this for free and if I ever need to, I will just get a bigger one. The only thing about this lathe when I got it is that this piece that goes on here tends to break on this model, and of course this one was broken. And this is made out of hot metal. They don't make this lathe anymore. I'm pretty sure jet is pretty good these days, but this was broken. There was no way that this was going to want to be welded. And I was like, you know, I think I could design this, basically recreate it out of billet. And then I found there's a guy that already does that. This was 110 bucks, and it comes with a nice bronze oiled bushing, bearing, whatever you want to call it, and nice little bearings to control the backlash so that this thing operates exactly as it probably should have. And I'm pretty stoked on that. I always like little upgrades. It's a lot of fun to me. So far so good with this little guy, and I'm gonna make some content with this because I figure it's worth sharing my feats and my follies, and I'm probably gonna get both out of this machine, and lathe content is super satisfying. Funny story though, benchtop mini lathe, I had no benchtop to put this on. This toolbox was originally over there, and I thought, well, if I'm gonna put it on something, it would be really nice to have drawers with all of the lathe stuff right in front of the lathe. I've got my 3-jaw chuck, 4-jaw chuck, this is scroll, this is independent. I've got all my little holders. If I'm grabbing something from the inside or the outside, that's for the 3-jaw chuck. Got my chuck keys. I've got my Morse taper drill bit head, drill chuck, that's what it's called. And I've got all the gears for the gear change. Gear changes aren't great. If everything was native or internal in the machine, that would be better, but this machine does metric threads, and I need metric threads. For the longest time, I was looking at a nice big old machine. You can find them for, you know, in the 2000s, 3000s, 4000s, 5000s, good old, well-running American-made machine. But a lot of those machines don't do metric, and I need metric. So I'm gonna be using this one for a while, and if you guys keep watching the videos, you're gonna find out how it works. Last note on the lathe, I like little creature comforts. As we get around this place, you're gonna see all of my little creature comforts. These are like just boat cup holders or something. They're like $5 on Amazon, and you know, I got my WD-40, and I have my cutting oil. This is a little paintbrush cup, just holds that in there. I can wet down a part while I'm cutting it, and that's just gonna live there. Tubing bender fits nicely right in between the lathe and the mill drill. This is the best hydraulic tubing bender I've ever used. It's a manual hydraulic bender, meaning you control how far it bends. It's made by CT Newman, who is a very interesting guy. He's a machine shop owner, he's a machinist, he's a chopper builder. He builds unique parts for platforms like the Acura NSX, just stuff that he loves. I've met him very briefly once or twice, but his tools, anything he makes speaks for itself. If you're looking for a hydraulic tubing bender, it's not cheap, but it is absolutely a forever tool. And it's the best tool that you can get before you get into like CNC tubing benders or something. That's a whole nother category. I have 6 dies for this. They're the Pro Tools 105 series dies, and I'm locked into the collection. I'm locked into this bender. I'm gonna stick with this. You can watch some of my other videos of me using it. It's a dream to use. This is a 1995 RongFu mill drill from Taiwan. As I said in 2 videos ago, this is basically a half step between a drill press and a mill. And it's kind of overkill for a drill press, and it's not quite strong enough, powerful enough, rigid enough to do all the things that a mill can do. You're gonna have to do light work and or go slow. But it has a Z and X, sorry, that's Z, X and Y axis table that basically operates like a mill. And this one has an R8 collet, which is pretty standard, kind of full size for a manual mill. So I can invest in tooling for an R8 collet, and if I ever step up to like an old Bridgeport or something, I'm probably gonna be okay there. The interesting thing about this one though is that this was previously owned by a hobbyist that makes miniature steam engines, and he also restores old machinery and tooling. So he has rebuilt this entire thing. All the bearings, all the tolerances, the gibs and weighs are checked and accurate. He also added a power feed on this unit, so I can actually make passes like a mill pretty comfortably and steadily. Not only that, he added a DRO system that's controlled by Bluetooth. There's a little Raspberry Pi box on the back here, and it has, you know, like the things that read what position it's in, and it all feeds to an Android. I don't have an Android, I have an iPhone, so I gotta buy like a cheap Android, and I'm gonna mount it right here. So I'm gonna have a little screen here for the DRO, but that's only the X and Y axis, and I wanted something to read Z axis. This is what was originally here, and they make these, basically it's a caliper that's meant to mount to this kind of a thing, and I needed to mount this guy like right here, so I designed and laser cut a little piece. So, creature comforts. Mill drill, pretty excited. I've only used it once, but I plan on using it a lot. Doesn't take up too much room, and I think it's gonna do most of what I know how to do on a mill, and if I ever get a big mill, I don't really know where I'm gonna put it. Let's go over here. This is obviously just tool area. It's kind of a mess, and it usually is a mess, but I know where everything is, and it is semi-organized. I can see everything. Some people have like really messy areas, but they know where everything is and it works for them. I can do that, but I prefer to stay clean and organized. It allows me to get to work faster and remain effective and efficient while I'm working. So I take as many steps as I can to remain organized. I have 2 points on that. First is, a small kitchen is a fast kitchen. Sometimes I feel constrained by my 400 square feet, but it forces me to get organized, and there is like recurring benefits from that. The other thing is, stay organized. So I like this method. I know it's cute, but there's a method to the madness. I like to hang as much as I can on the wall, and I focus on items that don't really fit into a drawer in tight organization or could move around in the drawer. Screwdrivers, wrenches, clamps, hammers. This stuff tends to pile up and make a mess in a drawer. If it does that, I hang it on the wall. Probably the cutest thing I have are these Tecton wrenches. They are incremental. It goes from 6 to 32. And it doesn't skip. It comes with this wall hanger. I spent more than I needed to. I already had wrenches. I gave them to somebody. I bought these simply because of the organization. Just couldn't help myself. With that said, if it does fit nice, tidy, and stay put in a drawer, it should go in a drawer. Like your sockets. You take the socket, you use the socket, you put the socket back, you keep all of your sockets. I actually haven't even lost my 10mm yet. And my method for this is I like to buy the sets that come in a case like this, and I cut the top off and I leave it in here. Because I don't want these sockets to leave, I don't plan on transporting them, and I can't really transport them if they don't have the cover. So that's kind of my method here. I went and got a whole new set. This, and this are all gear wrench. Some of this stuff is not gear wrench. When I moved in here about 10 months ago and I was getting myself organized again, I got a whole new set to kind of start over. My previous set was old and missing or mismatching, and it's kind of a luxury, but if you don't know, you can get this gear set tools. Like I got this whole setup here for probably like 400 bucks for brand new tools, and a company like Gear Wrench. incredible value for the money. They're good tools, they're cheap. You can get them on Amazon and they'll be there like the next day. Some encouragement. I also like to keep these tools near the motorcycle lift. This is where I'll work on complete bikes, maintenance, service, maybe even some final assembly one day. I do all of that right here, and it's nice to have these kind of tools at an arm's reach. And the rest is really just organization. Not all of these drawers are filled yet, and I'm trying to find a home for everything, but I'm also waiting for the tools to speak to me of where they want to go. This tool bench is nice to roll around and do assembly on, but I don't have space to roll around, so it lives right here, and it leaves space for this other stuff. Some of these are pretty well organized. Some of them are just holding Easter eggs. No Easter eggs in there. The Easter eggs on these, well, there's a story on these. These are actually from a Nike store. They say Nike, Beaverton, Oregon, 1972 on them. That's kind of cool, but basically they're just big bins. I also have another one right here that I built this little rollable workbench on it. I thought it was kind of cute because I made this stand which cradles the Ducati motor, and the Ducati frame bolts to the top of it, and then everything else bolts to that. So it's kind of easy to work on in a setup like this. Don't really know what I'm going to do with the cabinet afterwards. The Ducati has not made progress in quite some time, and it's time for that to change. Actually, the lathe has a lot to do with it. You'll see what I mean when I make Ducati episodes. Those are coming very soon because I'm waiting for some stuff for the Enfield chopper, so I'm gonna move on to that. This thing is basically wall art. How do I explain this thing? I started an electric bicycle company several years ago called Zeus Bikes, and during the infancy or building up the brand, the concept, the bikes, the company, I made this concept bike. I don't really know what for. That's a lie, I do know what for. There was this old, decrepit, falling apart velodrome on the south side of Chicago. And it happened, there's only 26 velodromes standing in North America. And this one happened to be the shortest track with the steepest turns. It's almost like a barrel, not quite wall of death, but really cool. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have like a drag bike to do what would have been like short track, board track racing type of thing. And then this was selected to be in a museum for 6 months in Australia. And then it came back, I took the wheels off of it for something else, and then I mounted it to this little plaque, sat in the office for a while, then we sold the company, and now it sits here. So that's the story on that. If you subscribed because of this thing, and you're watching this now, don't worry, I'm gonna get back to this. I'm gonna finish it, I'm gonna make it nice and painting, and do the painting thing. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with this. This was just to keep my hands from being idle. I think I might give it away. I'm probably gonna give it away to a subscriber, so stick around. I do admit that this frame jig is probably my favorite and most special tool. Special meaning specialized for exactly what it does, and not too many people have a frame jig, but also special because I made this 16 years ago, and I built my own first motorcycle. The first motorcycle I ever owned, I built, and I built it on this jig. It's a very simple jig. It's made out of 2x4 1/4-inch wall rectangular tubing, angle iron. This is 3/8 of an inch thick, and I built this when I was living in Norfolk, Virginia. I went to Old Dominion University. I was on the Formula SAE team, which is a intercollegiate competition for engineering students to design, build, and then compete in a Formula style race car. I was on that team for 1 year, and I left because I got a job in a hot rod shop. Now I was mainly sweeping the floors and doing media blasting, but I also had the opportunity to work on my own stuff after hours. I had a key to the shop, and they let me touch tools and things that I had no business touching or doing. And that kind of leads me back to some of the questions that I've been getting, especially over on Instagram, but perhaps some of you are curious, how did I get started? I did get lucky and I had access to various places, but I wasn't like born with that access. I went out and I worked on getting access to that stuff, and it was just an undying passion. And I believe that people will always inevitably see that passion. If you are laser focused on it, you try and go out and find it, you're gonna meet somebody and they're gonna extend their hand. That's what happened to me. I started working in this hot rod shop. The owner of the hot rod shop's cousin went to the same college that I did, right down the street, and he worked in the machine shop, and I got machining for $7.50 an hour. That was minimum wage at the time, and because he was 18 or 19, part of the deal was whenever he needed beer, I would buy him beer, because in 2009, I was 22. And I could do that. So he machined all of these holes 4 inches apart. They're 1/2-inch holes. And a few of these fixtures, this is also angle iron, and it has these slots in them and a few little pieces. And I've been able to build pretty much every jig, every bike on this jig that I've ever built. And it's pretty simple. Some people have asked, like, how can I build one? Where can I get one? There are really only 2 sources that I know of that have it. The first is the most economical one, and that's ChopSource. And they basically sell you all of the attachments, and then you have to buy tubing, which you can get at your local metal supermarkets or metal supply company, whatever's close to you. And you can basically assemble one. And for the most part, it works. A lot of people use it. Because this has been machined and welded, it's a little bit more rigid. I also, this originally didn't have a rotisserie, and then I modified it so that it was on a rotisserie. And it works. I'm really happy with it. There is another frame jig that is the complete opposite end of the spectrum, made by the same guy that makes that tubing bender. And if money is no object, or you want a serious frame jig, then you've probably already done the research and you know that it's his. That is like, it's thousands of dollars. Like, I think it starts at like $3,500, and then there's add-ons. You have to pay extra for the rotisserie. There are various fixtures for different Harley engines and stuff. And it's just like CT Newman makes, it's the best of the best. If you're concerned about whether it's good enough, don't be. If you're concerned about it being too expensive, I understand, but you get what you pay for. But that leads me to an interesting point. I've been asked 3 times in person now, and dozens of times in the comments, how somebody could make their own frame jig, or if I could make them one, or if I could design them one. And I'm intrigued. I would like to, but I'm concerned that it would be too expensive beyond what is within reach, being the ChopSource jig, which I've never used, but a lot of people do. It's got to be fine, especially if you're not doing like heavy production on it. If you're just doing a hardtail, but you want to make sure that it's done right, I think it's probably fine. But I also don't want to make something that is nowhere near as capable as CT Newman's, and he's just thought about everything down to the most minute details. I don't want to build something that comes within 10-20% of the cost of his and not be as good. He deserves that. So I don't want to take that away from him. However, I started designing a jig that kind of achieves that, and it would be something where you could send out to get laser cut and assemble it yourself. And you're going to have a welding table. You're going to have welding skills. I mean, how else are you going to build a frame anyway, right? So I've been thinking about it, and I'm not sure I want to do it, but basically I would have the design I'd sell it for a small nominal fee, and then you would basically order it probably from Oshcut. They do tubing laser cutting and flat laser cutting, and basically I redesigned this whole thing to incorporate just those two processes. So you would basically get a few big pieces of metal shipped to you, and then you would assemble it, build it yourself, based on my plans. I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. I don't know if there's even demand for that, and I don't want to step on the toes of the other guys, because you have the lowest cost option, and then you have the highest technical option. And if I fall into no man's land, but I also don't want to take money away from them. They've worked hard on this. So anyway, now I'm just rambling. This is about the jig. I built it a long time ago. It still works great. I don't need a new one. If it's not broke, don't fix it. If you have any more questions about the jig, leave them in the comments. I'll get back to you. I love the comments that people leave, actually. It's very motivating. There have been a lot of people that have helped me along the way. I'm the guy that likes to repay that, and encouragement, even for the people who know what they're doing and have been doing it forever. We all need encouragement to do all of this stuff. I like to share, so that's why I'm making this video. If you're still watching after me talking for so long, I appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, but if you're already here, I'm sure you've already done that. So I'll catch you on the next episode.